Upraised.
Upraised.
Upright.
Upright.
The chimpanzee stood upright and grasped the bars of its cage.
Katie was still awake, sitting bolt upright, staring at the television.
He pulled himself upright and faced me.
Your seat should be in the upright position when the plane is landing.
Keep the bottle upright. He was a good, honest, upright man.
Upright piano.
Upright piano.
Uprising.
Uprising.
A popular uprising.
An armed uprising.
Upriver.
Upriver.
Uproar.
Uproar.
The house was in an uproar, with babies crying and people shouting.
Uproarious.
Uproarious.
An uproarious party.
Uproariously funny.
Uproot.
Uproot.
He rejected the idea of uprooting himself and moving to America.
Upscale.
Upscale.
An affluent upscale audience.
Upsell. Upsell.
Upset.
Upset.
She was deeply upset about the way her father treated her.
Debbie was upset that he didn't spend more time with her. You're not still upset with me, are you?
Don't do anything that would upset him.
It upsets me to see you cry.
The chemicals upset the balance of the environment.
He upset a bowl of soup.
Jones upset the 40th ranked American, Cunningham.
The soup was revolting and upset my stomach.
If you are the victim of a burglary, the emotional upset can affect you for a long time.
There was a major upset when the young skater took the gold medal.
Upshot.
Upshot.
The upshot was that after much argument, they all agreed to help her. Upside.
Upside.
The upside of the whole thing is that we got a free trip to Jamaica.
Upside down.
Upside down.
To get the plant out of the pot, turn it upside down and give it a gentle knock.
The burglars have turned our house upside down. The story of a young girl whose life was turned upside down.
An upside-down U-shape.
Upsize. Upsize. Do you want me to upsize your fries? Upskilling. Upskilling.
Upstage.
Upstage.
All the big-name stars were upstaged by 12-year-old Katie Rochford.
Upstairs.
Upstairs.
I went upstairs and had a shower.
She's upstairs in bed feeling ill.
An upstairs window.
The upstairs rooms.
Would you like to see the upstairs? Upstanding.
Upstanding.
Upstanding young men and women.
Upstart.
Upstart.
A cheeky young upstart.
Upstate.
Upstate.
Upstate New York.
Upstream.
Upstream.
Fish instinctively fight their way upstream against the current.
Upsurge.
Upsurge.
There was an upsurge in violence during June and July.
There was a genuine upsurge of religious feeling.
Upswing.
Upswing.
An upswing in economic growth.
Uptake.
Uptake.
The uptake of some vaccinations fell as the media stirred up fears of possible side effects. The uptake of sugars by the blood.
Uptempo.
Uptempo.
Music with an up-tempo beat.
Uptight.
Uptight.
You have to learn to laugh instead of getting uptight about things. Uptime. Uptime.
Some customers need 99% or better uptime from their mainframe computers.
Up to date.
Up to date.
They have access to up-to-date information through a computer database.
Our magazine will keep you up to date with fashion.
Up-to-date kitchen equipment.
The old system should be brought up to date.
Up to the minute.
Up to the minute.
The General lacked up-to-the-minute information at the crucial moment.
Beach resorts packed with up-to-the-minute facilities and entertainment.
Uptown.
Uptown.
He now lives in an apartment a little farther uptown. Uptown neighborhoods. Upturn.
Upturn.
An upturn in the housing market.
An economic upturn. Upturned.
Upturned.
He smiled down into her upturned face.
I sat on an upturned box. An upturned boat.
UPVC.
UPVC. UPVC double-glazed windows.
Upward.
Upward.
An upward trend in sales.
A sharp upward movement in property prices.
Upward pressure on bank interest rates.
Stroke the cream onto your skin in an upward direction.
Upwardly mobile.
Upwardly mobile.
The upwardly mobile middle classes.
Upwards.
Upwards. Pointing upwards, he indicated a large nest high in the tree.
The path began to climb steeply upwards.
The expected rate of inflation was revised upwards. Prices are moving upwards again.
Children of 14 and upwards. The meeting was attended by upwards of 500 people.
Upwind.
Upwind.
Uranium.
Uranium.
Uranus.
Uranus.
William Herschel discovered Uranus in 1781.
Urban.
Urban.
Unemployment in urban areas. The deprived sections of the urban population.
Urbane.
Urbane.
Neil was urbane, witty, direct, and honest.
Urbanized.
Urbanized.
The most heavily urbanized regions. During the 19th century, Britain became the world's first modern urbanized society.
The transformation of the social structure by urbanization.
Urban myth.
Urban myth.
Urban renewal.
Urban renewal.
An urban renewal program.
Urban sprawl.
Urban sprawl.
Planning policies designed to limit the growth of urban sprawl.
Urchin.
Urchin.
Urdu.
Urdu.
Y.
The closure of the factory.
Exposure.
Failure.
Urethra.
Urethra.
Urge.
Urge.
I got a note from Moira, urging me to get in touch.
He urged that a referendum should be held by December. I have urged upon him the need for extreme secrecy.
The charity urged quick action.
He urged her forward, his hand under her elbow.
She began urging him towards the front door.
Urgency.
Urgency.
The issue should be discussed as a matter of urgency. Despite the crisis, there appeared to be no sense of urgency. Amelia heard the urgency in his voice.
Urgent.
Urgent.
He was in urgent need of medical attention.
The report called for urgent action to reduce lead in petrol.
An urgent message. An urgent whisper.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Uric.
Uric.
Urinal.
Urinal.
Urinary.
Urinary.
The urinary tract.
Urinate.
Urinate.
Urine.
Urine.
URL.
URL.
Urn.
Urn. Urologist.
Urologist.
US.
The U.S. Navy.
Us.
Please help us.
He arranged for us all to have a drink.
She's invited us both.
My mother is coming to stay with us. Send us a donation now.
Life is hard for us women.
Global warming will affect all of us.
Give us a kiss.
Usable.
Usable.
The computer language involved was readily usable.
Usable information.
Usage.
Usage.
A book on modern English usage.
Water usage is increasing.
USB.
USB.
Many USB devices come with their own built-in cable.
USB drive.
USB drive.
Use.
Use.
Can I use your phone?
I'll show you which room you can use.
I always use the same shampoo.
Use your imagination when planning meals.
She booked the flight using a false name.
Drop-down menus make the program very easy to use.
They were using animals for scientific experiments.
Bob uses the van for picking up groceries. My parents use the house as a holiday home. Most people now use their cars to go shopping.
We use about £40 worth of electricity a month.
Standard washing machines use about 40 gallons of water. Can't you see that Howard is just using you? Gerald had been using her for his own ends.
She used her position as manager to get jobs for her friends.
I could use a drink.
We use the word hardware to describe the actual machine.
Don't use bad language.
She's used up all the hot water.
An exit for use in emergencies. The increasing use of computers in education. Robots have many different uses in modern industry.
The cupboard is full of things I can never find a use for.
We will make use of her vast experience.
There is an answering machine for you to make use of.
Try to make good use of your time.
A job where her management skills can be put to good use.
Joe's given me the use of his office till he gets back. He lost the use of both legs as a result of the accident.
You needed blankets to keep warm because the heating was no use.
Take this. It's of no use to me anymore.
It's no use complaining. Oh, it's no use. I can't fix it.
What's the use of decorating the house if we're going to sell it?
Electric vehicles built in 1920 were still in use in the 1950s. A bar for the use of the guests.
He was charged with having information likely to be of use to terrorists.
Computers first came into use in the early 1950s.
Some 4,000 railway stations have gone out of use since the 1960s.
She has no use for people who are always complaining.
Being stubborn can have its uses.
Used.
Used.
I do the dishes every day, so I'm used to it.
I can't get used to the idea that you're grown up now.
A used car salesman.
A used tissue.
Used to.
Used to.
He used to go to our school. We're eating out more often than we used to. You didn't used to eat chips when you were younger.
You used not to fuss like this.
It never used to bother me. Did you used to go to church regularly?
Jimmy used to be a friend of mine.
There used to be a large car park on this site.
Why are you so bad-tempered? You didn't used to be like this.
Did this building used to be a hotel?
Where did you used to live before you came to Manchester?
Useful.
Useful.
Useful information. A little Japanese can be really useful. The space under the desk is useful for storing CDs. Techniques that could be useful to teachers. Can you come and make yourself useful? Usefulness.
Usefulness.
There are doubts as to the usefulness of this approach. As a commuter service, the ferry has outlived its usefulness.
Useless.
Useless.
The doctor concluded that further treatment would be useless.
A website full of useless information.
Water had got into the radio and now it was completely useless.
The land is useless for growing crops.
It was useless to complain.
The map was so out of date it was worse than useless.
Don't ask Tim to fix it. He's completely useless.
User.
User.
Road users. A computer user.
Library users.
Drug users were warned about the dangers of sharing needles. User fee.
User fee.
User-friendly.
User-friendly.
A user-friendly guide to computing.
User group.
User group.
User interface.
User interface.
Username.
Username.
Please enter your username and password and click OK.
Usher.
Usher.
He ushered her into the room.
She stood back and ushered him in.
The discovery of oil ushered in an era of employment and prosperity.
Usherette.
Usherette.
The U.S. Masters Tournament.
U.S. Masters Tournament.
USP.
USP.
Usual.
Usual.
Make a cheese sauce in the usual way.
I'll meet you at the usual time.
It is taking longer than usual for orders to reach our customers.
She ate twice as much as usual.
It's usual to keep records of all expenses.
As usual, they'd left the children at home with Susan.
They didn't invite any women, as usual.
He just laughed at me, as per usual.
What was he going on about this time? Oh, the usual.
A pint of the usual, please, Paul.
Keith doesn't seem his usual self these days.
Usually.
Usually.
Women usually live longer than men.
Usually I wear black, grey or brown.
The drive usually takes 15 or 20 minutes.
Usurer.
Usurer.
Usurious.
Usurious. Usurious.
Usurious.
Usurp.
Usurp.
There were a couple of attempts to usurp the young king.
Usury.
Usury.
In medieval times, it was illegal for Christians to practice usury.
Utensil.
Utensil.
Kitchen utensils.
Uterus.
Uterus.
Utilitarian.
Utilitarian.
Ugly utilitarian buildings.
Utilitarianism.
Utilitarianism.
Utility.
Utility.
Does your rent include utilities?
It's a simple shareware utility that allows you to print signs and banners.
Utility pole.
Utility pole.
Utility room.
Utility room.
Utilize.
Utilize.
We must consider how best to utilize what resources we have.
Utmost.
Utmost.
A matter of the utmost importance.
I have the utmost respect for her accomplishments.
Baldwin treated the matter with utmost seriousness.
Both runners have pushed themselves to the utmost.
The medical staff did their utmost to save the patient's life.
Utopia.
Utopia.
A utopian society.
Utter.
Utter.
That's utter nonsense.
This company treats its employees with utter contempt.
I watched in complete and utter horror as he pulled out a gun.
15 years of utter confusion.
You fool, she uttered in disgust.
Cantor nodded without uttering a word.
The wounded prisoner uttered a groan.
Utterance.
Utterance.
Politicians are judged by their public utterances.
Utterly.
Utterly.
You look utterly miserable.
Uttermost.
Uttermost.
U-turn.
U-turn.
He made a quick U-turn and sped away. Critics accused the government of doing a U-turn on its promise to increase education spending.
UV.
UV.
The sun's harmful UV rays.
Uvula.
Uvula.
V.
V.
She cut the material into a V.
Vac.
Vac.
Vacancy.
Vacancy.
There are still 2 vacancies on the school board. We have no vacancies for photographers at the moment.
The council is making every effort to fill the vacancies.
Information about job vacancies.
Let me see if we have a vacancy for tonight.
No vacancies, the sign read.
His mouth fell open and the look of vacancy returned.
Vacant.
Vacant.
Only a few apartments were still vacant.
There was only a vacant lot where her house used to be.
He was offered the position of headmaster when it fell vacant.
He gazed at me with vacant eyes.
Cindy was staring vacantly into space.
Vacant possession.
Vacant possession.
Vacate.
Vacate.
Clay will vacate the position on June the 19th.
Guests must vacate their rooms by 11 o'clock.
Vacation.
Vacation.
We're planning a vacation in Europe.
He's on vacation this week. We are planning to go on vacation soon.
How much vacation do you get at your new job? I think I have 4 vacation days left.
Employees are entitled to 4 weeks paid vacation annually.
The Bernsteins are vacationing in Europe.
Vacationer.
Vacationer.
Vaccinate.
Vaccinate.
All children should be vaccinated against measles.
A flu vaccination. Vaccine.
Vaccine.
A polio vaccine.
Doctors worried that there would not be enough vaccine for everyone who needed it. Vacillate.
Vacillate.
Her parents vacillated between different approaches to discipline.
Vactor.
Vactor.
Vacuity.
Vacuity.
Vacuous.
Vacuous.
A vacuous expression.
A vacuous romantic novel.
Vacuum.
Vacuum.
Her husband's death left a vacuum in her life.
The political vacuum caused by the ban on Communist Party activity.
The process of learning a language does not take place in a vacuum.
Vacuum cleaner.
Vacuum cleaner.
Vacuum flask.
Vacuum flask.
Vacuum packed.
Vacuum packed.
Vacuum tube.
Vacuum tube.
Vagaries.
Vagaries.
The vagaries of the English weather.
Vagina.
Vagina.
Vagrancy.
Vagrancy.
Vagrant.
Vagrant.
Vague.
Vague.
The governor gave only a vague outline of his tax plan. Julia was vague about where she had been and what she had been doing. Larry had the vague feeling he'd done something embarrassing the night before.
The vague shape of a figure loomed through the mist.
Vaguely.
Vaguely.
I vaguely remember a woman in a red dress standing outside the door.
There was something vaguely familiar about him.
I was vaguely aware of another figure by the door.
His statement was very vaguely worded. He smiled vaguely at the ceiling.
Vain.
Vain.
Men can be just as vain as women.
Police searched in vain for the missing gunman.
Altman swore that his son's death would not be in vain.
The young mother died in a vain attempt to save her drowning son.
The instructor struggled vainly to open his parachute.